Hey, welcome to my video on writing paragraphs. So this video is meant to be a general video that supports any lesson that would involve the writing of a paragraph. So let's get started. You probably already know what a paragraph is, and you probably already feel like you know how to write one. But I have found that even at my advanced age, I'm still learning. And I'm very dedicated to growth mindset. I'm very dedicated to, as a method of instruction, encouraging students to always be learning about paragraph writing. So let me just hit a few key concepts, and then I'll show you building a paragraph, and then I'll take you to some resources. So the favored method or acronym for thinking about paragraphs at LCC is PI. And PI stands for the following. Each letter is meant to be part of the acronym. So the first is point. The second is information, and the third is explanation. So a point is where the paragraph begins, and often this is referred to as a topic sentence, and frequently, especially in academic college writing, it is an argumentative claim, which means it makes an argument. And it's much like a thesis statement. In fact, in a academic essay, it's usually set up by the thesis statement, and so it's kind of like a part of the thesis statement. Information can be a variety of things. It can be personal experience, and it can also be material from sources. But that alone is not enough to let's do some things here to make this look a little better. That alone is not enough, right? But it's the basic elements of the paragraph. If I have a point, a topic sentence, argumentative claim, I support that with evidence, whether that be personal experience. I guess I could add here examples. I could just use general examples, that I kind of make up or that I know from, my life in the world that aren't my own personal experiences, but things I know about. That supports my argument. That's most of what I need, but that alone is not quite enough. And so what I want to do is I want to explain and or analyze the material that I share in the form of information, showing the reader how it supports the topic sentence, how it supports the argumentative claim, and in a larger essay, how it also supports the thesis that was introduced back at the beginning of the essay, right? So I have these things. Now, you may better visualize the paragraph in a different way. So hold on, I'm going to give an example of that. Okay, so you may better visualize, rather than pie, you may better visualize a paragraph as like a burger, right? That the top, the bun, is the topic sentence. Then inside you have evidence and analysis. And then at the bottom, you have a concluding sentence or even a transition to the next paragraph, depending on the kind of a thing. One reason I like this is that you often use different kinds of information. You use more than one piece of information in a paragraph. And so a visual like this makes me think that there are going to be multiple parts to my paragraph. It's not just going to be 3 sentences. Because a paragraph really should be at least 5 sentences. 5 to 8 is good. And of course, the example I'm going to show, is much larger than that. And then there are 3 things that I want to think about as I think about writing paragraphs, right? they are as follows, right? I want to think about development. So I want to develop my ideas with details and specifics. And I want to fully flesh out and expand on the things that I'm trying to communicate. I also want to be unified. All the elements, all the writing within the paragraph, all should be about one idea that's expressed by that topic sentence, that top bun or the P in pi. And then I want the whole thing to be cohesive, which means it all kind of flows together. It's all connected. It all flows together. And the reader doesn't have any trouble understanding. There's no big jumps. There's no abrupt change. That all the stuff is kind of well constructed. One of my colleagues often refers to this as treat me like a toddler and lead me along like a toddler. Okay, so let's look at a paragraph then. Let's get started, right? So I'm going to start with this. I got a topic sentence. Beagles are the smartest dogs. Now, you know me, you know I have a beagle, and so obviously I'm going to draw some personal experience here. And I have a nugget from a source. So immediately, as soon as I come up with this idea, I'm Googling, I'm reading about sources that talk about beagles being smart dogs. And so I paraphrase. This is not a quote. This is a paraphrase because in English classes, we want to quote rarely, summarize sometimes, paraphrase often. That's like a motto that you should write down and like tape above your desk, if you have a desk, and if that's appropriate. Otherwise, or like write it on the under part of your arm in Sharpie. Quote rarely, summarize sometimes, paraphrase often. Is the rule. So I have a paraphrase here. Beagles, in particular, canines, prove their intelligence via instinctive abilities, adaptive problem solving and memory, and obedience. Though beagle intelligence is usually equated with 2-year-old children, selective breeding has produced higher levels of ability in some dogs. So that's a pretty good start. I have information and I have a topic sentence. So, but I need more. This isn't quite enough yet. How do I get from the topic sentence to the source? How do I expand on what I have here? So in the next stage, and also I need to indicate that I'm using a source. So I need a signal phrase. I need a signal phrase to say, hey, reader, this is a source. There. Uh-oh, got a problem. So many problems that you're not aware of off camera. Okay, so I have a signal phrase. I'm letting the reader know that this paraphrase comes from someone named Marvin Chum, director of the Chum Group. I totally made this up. This is not a real source, just so you know, right? But that's still not enough. I have to try to get from the topic sentence to the source, right? So I call this connective tissue. And one of the things that I've noticed as an instructor over the last several years is that students are often they're very eager to share their source material. They're very excited about their source material. So often they jump right into the source material. Sometimes they just start the paragraph with the source material. And we don't really want to do that. As a rule, we don't really want to start a paragraph with source material. We don't want to end a paragraph with material from sources, right? We want that stuff to be in the middle. We want our writing at the beginning, us, the writers of the paragraphs, and we want our writing at the end, especially if you think of the pie format, that after you've shared the information, you have the E of explanation, right? So I'm going to get to that. But first, I'm trying to add another thing that's not in that acronym pie. There should be a letter in between the P and the I for connective tissue. And that's why I like the burger analogy, you know, because there's multiple layers, or the sandwich, right? There's multiple layers. So there's you know, mayonnaise and mustard and special sauce and cheese and whatever we need under the bun before we get to the meat, right? And this is what I like to call connective tissue, right? So I start to add in this case, personal experience, because if I'm going to write about beagles being the smartest dogs, of course I'm going to write about my beagle, right? So I straight up write that I'm the proud owner of a beagle, and so I'm biased. Um, I think of her like my child. I think of her like a human. Her name is Satchel, and she seems to understand everything I say and everything that has gone on in our home. All right, this is better. That kind of shows that I think beagles are extremely intelligent. It's kind of building on beagles are the smartest dogs, but it doesn't seem to be building on it directly. And I have a signal phrase. So I'm like saying, hello, reader. Source is coming up. Here comes the source. Hold on. And I actually have a little bit more information that I can add in there in the source. And that's what I was doing off camera when I paused the video for a while. And so I can add that in a little bit. I can add to instinctive abilities, sheep herding, 51% of their intelligence is genetic, according to Chum. And that gets, according to Chum, twice in there. It's not ideal, but that's something I could fix later if I want to. You know, at least I'm pegging it for myself, and I could change that. In my final version, I still haven't changed that, but you know, maybe it's okay to be repetitive. I would play with that. This isn't a perfect paragraph that I've constructed that I'm sharing. And then obedience, learned skills. You know, the dogs, they're obedient, you teach them things, you know. So, all right. So I'm building some stuff here. I feel like I'm developing, right? It's growing, but there's not enough here yet. It's still a pretty big jump from the topic sentence and my personal experience connection to the source. That would be a huge and very abrupt jump. And that's what we don't want. And that's what I see a lot in student writing. I see these abrupt jumps. And we want to show more connections. We want more detail. You can never have too much detail. I say that, and I worry sometimes when I say that I'll regret it, but I've never regretted it. I've never yet seen someone that has actually given me too much detail. I know it's possible. You're thinking already, and some of you, you know, are going to want to, you know, just try to show me that you can really, you can do too much detail, and then I will be regretting saying that. But you know, I need to unpack the word smart too. The whole point of having connective tissue after the topic sentence is to develop the idea that I'm trying to write about, and connect that idea to the source, right? The source is clearly about intelligence. I start with intelligence. I hint at, I imply ideas of intelligence in my connective tissue bit about Satchel there in the green, but I don't quite have the full connection yet. So I'm going to add in here the concept of smart. And dogs may not be quite the same as how we regard intelligence in human terms. However, I have trouble separating the two, given how I regard dogs. That's a nice setup then to my comments about Satchel. Okay, I'm doing better. But I still need to get from this part in the green to the signal phrase and the source material, right? So I write this. And I'm not going to read it all to you because I'm going to try to keep this video short, and you can read the paragraph after the video because it'll be provided with the video, both on my blog and in classroom materials via Canvas. But basically, I'm expanding on Satchel and what I've observed about her intelligence. And then I have this connective piece to, you know, directly connect me from my comments about Satchel. I make this joke about Satchel being able to do calculus. And then I write, though documentation of beagles solving calculus problems is rare, examples of intelligence in beagles have been supported in studies by experts. And this sets up that I'm about to deliver material from an expert. So I got a pretty good build here that I'm working on. I have a topic sentence. I'm unpacking that topic sentence with quite a bit of detail before I even get to a source. I mean, for some people, this would be a whole paragraph. And granted, I'm writing a long paragraph. But then I got source material. So I could quit here if I just wanted to follow up the source material with explanation analysis, right? About those elements, those examples of intelligence in animals: instinctive, adaptive problem solving, and memory, and obedience. I could do all of that, right? So, yeah, hold on. So I'm going to add explanation. So I'm going to directly explain what is in the paraphrase based on Chum's descriptions of beagle intelligence. And I'm going to go back to my example of Satchel. And I'm going to give some more detail about Satchel. And it's still like, I'm not giving specific stories. That's one of the things that I think is weak about this particular part of this paragraph. And, in a longer essay, I would probably, in another paragraph, do like a whole story, a longer, detailed, extended example showing, like, if I wanted to show, like earlier I mentioned she can bait and fool other dogs, or that she can navigate maze-like structures. I might literally describe that and show that and give like a little story that would open that up a little bit more, right? But for this paragraph, I think it's sufficient amount of detail, and if fairly clear enough that you can visualize what I'm talking about, even though I haven't provided like the full description of the story or whatever, right? So I feel like it's coming along, but I still feel like I want to do more. I still feel like I want to add more material from the source and find a way to come to an ending on this, right? So this is what I have so far. And now I'm going to add this. And now I feel that I'm really building something here, that I got a lot more to work with. I have 2 more sites, and I continue to set Satchel information next to Chum's material. I'm a little concerned about this part where I write, I am convinced. Typically, when I'm telling students they can write personal experience, so I am the proud owner of Satchel. She understands everything I say. I think of her as my child. Those are very permitted uses of the first person, right? I like to joke, right? But I am convinced that is one of those things where you could do without it, right? I could start the sentence, which Satchel knows more than 200 words. The reason that I leave in I'm convinced that is that I'm trying to imply that it's not scientifically proven. I'm trying to imply that I am convinced that Satchel knows more than 200 words, but it's not scientifically proven without literally writing that. So that's why I'm leaving in I am convinced, because it's very much like the I think. If you write I think, you don't need it. In fact, I had some of those as I was writing this, and I took them out, right? Because if you think it, if you wrote it, we know you think it, right? You don't need to write I think. In this case, I am convinced that it's very much like I think is permitted, because I'm trying to imply that might not actually be true, right? Anyway, that's my justification. I would welcome feedback from other writers, and I might change my mind about that. I might, depending on what some other people think, right? And I come up with this final sentence. I'm pretty proud of this final sentence. I've seen no evidence that Satchel is not correct in her understanding and memory 100% of the time, but then I know that I am probably just seeing what I want to see. And again, I probably could drop this, right, and say, but then I am probably seeing just seeing what I want to see. So do I really need to say, but then I know that I am probably just seeing what I want to see? This one, I'm not really trying to imply anything like in the other one. So I really could just take that out. But then I am probably just seeing what I want to see. It's a lot cleaner that way, right? You know, so that's part of the writing process, right? To figure out all that kind of stuff, right? Since I just figured that out, in the making of this video, that was not in my final, right? Let me give you the final version of this with full color coding. And there we go. And I got a work cited. And since I just have one work that I'm citing, I have one work cited. And a couple other things about this. Even though I signal phrased Marvin Chum and I've Chum in here again, in my classes, I like to encourage students to give me the full cite again, because it's bigger and easier to spot. And a lot of teachers scan your work for cites. And so then they're going to be able to see that. MLA says that if you've named the author, you can just give the locator, which in this case is a page number. I like page numbers or paragraph numbers, as we'll learn in this course. But I like the full cite, right? So even when I mention, and this is the only place I mention Marvin Chum is up here. So when I do some more paraphrasing with cites, now I have not mentioned it anywhere near this. I don't need to keep signal phrasing the sources if a reader sees more cites from Chum later in the article. Obviously, that came from the same article. You know, I would make a new signal phrase if it was a different article by Chum, or if this was a different source, and so then it'd be a different cite with a different author. So I think I pretty much have built a pretty solid paragraph here, where I have lots of connective tissue that follows my topic sentence before I get to the source. I've used the source 2 more times. I have a concluding sentence that is not a summary. I unpack the source a little bit. And as I'm going through here, I'm commenting on the source. It's pretty straightforward. I got the 70% here. I think Satchel understands 100%. I got the words thing here, 500 words versus 200 words. I think that unpacks those sources fairly well. And I have a pretty good paragraph here, and it is 407 words, which is a pretty long paragraph. It is single space, so if I were to double space this, it would probably be, definitely is more than a page. That's a pretty long paragraph, actually. But I'm trying to show expansion. I'm trying to show development. I think I have achieved, unity, definitely, it's all about intelligence in dogs. So it's definitely a unified paragraph. Definitely it's a developed paragraph. Is it a coherent paragraph? Is everything all linked together? And I think it is. You can tell me differently if you feel otherwise and give me some pointers. I would welcome it. But I feel like given my writing process, which I didn't write it in the stages that I showed you as I was adding stuff. I kept going back and adding, a sentence at a time here and there and making connections and went back through it over and over again. And I didn't do that all in like a Google Doc where I could show a series of track changes to really get down into the weeds in terms of how I constructed some of these sentences and when I added parts, because it wasn't in the way that I showed you in this video. So to wrap up, I want to go back to resources. that I have that I want to share with you. And I'm going to serve up, no matter what class you're in and what quarter this is, I'm going to be using this for a while, this paragraph resource page on my blog. And so it's got the infamous paragraph burger. It's got descriptions of these concepts, develops unified cohesive whole. It's got pie paragraphs, topic sentence, important context, supporting elements, explanation. It's got the stuff about the concluding sentence doesn't have to be a summary sentence, kind of like my example is not a summary sentence, but it ends the paragraph well. And also how we want to work with sources. So you don't want to start a paragraph with source material. We don't want to end a paragraph with source material because then we haven't explained it and analyzed it. And then a bunch of resources. So more about pie paragraphs, more about paragraphs at some of my favorite writing centers, even longer looks at paragraph writing. If you really want to engage in the study of paragraph writing and spend some time on this as you're writing your paragraph, or before you write your paragraph, or after you've written a paragraph and you're about to rewrite the paragraph. And then some videos. This first video is a very quick and simple look at paragraph writing that is actually shorter than my video here. Then this is my favorite video. It's specifically about analytic writing. So it's about a paragraphs of analysis, but the way she did it was really cool. And it's the only video by this person on YouTube. So I suspect it was a student for a project in a class. But I really, really like the way she does this and the way she annotates the paragraph and the way she brings in her visuals. And it's just really, really super well done. So if you want to watch 2 more videos, I recommend these. But if you really want to spend some time studying, and it'll take about an hour because each of these videos is about half an hour in length, you could watch these videos, which go even more in depth on paragraph writing, and it would be a great learning experience for you as you're studying writing and learning to write paragraphs. Everybody knows how to write. And often in writing classes at college, students just dive right in and start writing. They don't spend time studying writing and what to do and techniques of writing. Sometimes that's good. I was kind of that way as well. When I took painting, I wanted to throw paint on a canvas. And later I wanted to learn more about technique. So if that's your way, that's cool. Write your paragraph. And then when you're ready, study paragraph writing and learn more about it. Other people like to front load it, so they like to do all that study, take notes, learn things. There might be textbooks in some courses that have material on paragraph writing, and then write their paragraph, and then consult their notes, consult all this stuff that they learned as they're writing and rewriting their paragraph. Just remember, writing is rewriting. First draft writing is not writing. That's just the first step of writing. Writing is rewriting, revising, re-envisioning. Revising means to re-see, to re-envision. And writing is never done, it's just due. So, at some point you just have to turn it in, but it's really not done yet. Just like you found that, as I was talking about my paragraph, I was seeing more things that I could do. And really, I could redo the paragraph completely, because did I really prove that beagles are the smartest dogs? Or did I just prove that beagles are smart? And I think my beagle is smart, but did I really do a lot of comparison to other dogs and actually prove scientifically that they rate higher than other dogs? I didn't actually. So that would be something I would do next time in a second version of this paragraph. Anyway, thanks for paying attention. I hope this video isn't enormously long because I wasn't timing myself, but that's it. Peace out. Thanks. Bye.